State your name and who you're with, and please keep your questions brief. Up next, we'll be hearing opening remarks from Nathalie Moll, Director General of the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations, and this will be followed by an interview with Jakub Dvořáček, Deputy Health Minister from the Czech Republic, moderated by Giedra Pesikita, Health Reporter for Politico. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Helen, and good afternoon. As I was preparing for my 5 minutes, because I literally have 5 minutes, I was thinking to myself, what can I say in 5 minutes that will make a difference to the audience in the room and online? And what I want to say is I would like to share the responsibility of what Helen just mentioned, competitiveness and access, not competitiveness or access. We live in a polarized enough world right now. We have wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. We have a polarization between the EU and the US. We have enough confrontation and certainly defense at the very top of our agenda. The more we can do to collaborate and find solutions, the faster and better we'll go. And we don't have a choice at European level right now. We are in a situation, we'll discuss access. I'm sure we'll hear also from Jakub in a second, the situation of access in member states. We as an industry have come forward with a number of proposals, but it's not enough. The complications of getting medicines, innovative medicines today, the ones of today and the ones of the future, to patients everywhere in Europe are enormous and multifactorial, and there's no single actor who can do it alone. And so I would really like to have that shared responsibility. I'm sorry if I take some of the weight out of my shoulders and put it on the people in the audience as well. The actors in the healthcare system owe it to patients to work together to find solutions. At this moment in time, we've read in the reports, Europe is losing ground on innovation, losing ground on competitiveness, which ultimately means losing ground on getting the right medicines to the right patients for today and tomorrow. We want Europe to be the best innovation hub in the world. We want to have the most clinical trials. We want to have the fastest access, but whether it be to innovative drugs or to generic drugs once the IP is over. We really want to create the environment to get those medicines from prevention to care to cure for today's patients and tomorrow. How can we do that? I'm going to take 3 proposals that industry has come up with, but I really hope that this afternoon we'll challenge ourselves to find more together so that we can make real strides, and not just in conferences like this, which are very important, but actually also off-grid, sitting together and finding solutions. Certainly, we know that the root causes of delays to access are many. We've studied them as an industry, we've published many reports, but we need to sit together with all the actors, including member states, including all the healthcare players, to agree which are the barriers, and then to decide who does what. And until we do that, we will not be able to make progress. And we've seen how hard it is to try and find that solution in European legislation that is meant for innovation when you're trying to fix solutions on access. We also need to make sure that the innovative ecosystem that we have in Europe is strengthened. We've fallen behind other parts of the world. We are now 3rd in terms of producing active substances first. So the US comes first. Last year, China was before us, and now it's Europe. That's not a place where we want to be. We need to move up. We need to create the right ecosystem to make sure that we are actually strengthening our capacity to innovate. So strengthen IP rather than weaken it, and make sure our regulatory environment, our regulatory system is future-proofed, up-to-date, and perfect. And then we need to make sure that our offering on clinical trials is the best in the world, because we have to make sure that our patients have access as quickly as possible. Those are 3. We know that every euro invested in healthcare in a developed country gives back 14 euros to the economy. Think about that, and think about where Europe is today. We can't afford not to invest in health. We can't afford not to work together. You have an industry that invests 50 billion euros in research and development every year, supports 2.3 million jobs as well. So we can also be an economic engine for the region, but not unless we really have the right environment for that research, for that development, for that manufacturing, and for access. So the end of my 5 minutes is, can we please share that responsibility to agree on what the problems are, find the solutions, and get to work. And I really look forward to hearing how we can come to some of those out-of-the-box ideas today and then continue them outside of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the message that you sent here, and very warm welcome for those who gathered here in person and online for our next session. My name is Giedre Peseckytė. I'm health reporter here at Politico, and I have a pleasure to have here next to me Jakub Dvořáček, Deputy Minister of Health at Czech Republic. So Czech Republic has been going really strong on healthcare recently. We come across your statements pretty often, whether it would be regarding the drug shortages created actually by national stockpiling in other countries such as Germany or France. But also recently you came with a proposal on pharmaceutical strategy, how to ensure the access, innovation, how to go around it, because as probably audience knows, it is currently being discussed in the council. So, Mr. Jakub, I would like to discuss both of those topics, and let's start with the shortages. So, earlier this year, you said that stupid national strategies to stockpile medicines will lead to drug shortages in other EU countries this winter.
Yes.
As we're kind of facing winter already, did it happen? Do you feel shortages in Czech Republic because of Germany, Austria, or France national stockpiling now?
I think that all national stockpilings creates the secondary unavailability. And yes, sorry? Okay. I don't know if I can do anything about it.
I think we can just wait a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
But hopefully it will be fixed very quickly.
I can go there. Use the microphone?
That's true. Or, oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, back to your question. Yes, I believe, we still... No way. It's cursed.
We can hear you online, can't hear you in the...
Okay.
So we're trying to fix it. You can give the No. Just a second.
Oh, perfect.
Yes, the situation is a bit better than we thought, but we already see how huge a stockpile is created on the European level. The question is, if we are able to use it, if we are able to share it, and if we are really working, with all that stock we have, in proper way. And that's what I believe, still didn't change. We see more and more countries introducing more and more regulatory requirements in this field. And of course, it's somehow natural because the situation which we faced during the last 2 years was quite tough. And we didn't struggle, with innovative treatment. We struggled with basic pharmaceuticals, with antibiotics, with treatment which is really essential. So, yeah, there are already steps which we are taking to limit it. Some of them are clever, some of them are less. But every step we are taking, on the national way should be always, thought double times, to ensure, that we are not influencing each other in a negative way. And of course, if we have a big countries, requiring a big stockpile, setting up high penalties, if it is not fulfilled, then of course, the decision of the company or the marketing authorization holder who is, let's say, under such a regulation, is natural, and they're going to fulfill, those requirements, which creates for them, the most painful fines. So this is definitely not the good way to set up, and to recover from the crisis we had. And if we will not have this extraordinary stockpiling, maybe we will already have a quite nice and fluent flow of stock in all member states. So As I said, it's natural because there is a strong and big political pressure to ensure that we will have enough pharmaceuticals for our patients. But at the same time, sometimes the reactions are not as I said, in the best way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Just a brief mention that, for example, Germany demands pharmaceutical companies to hold 6 months' worth of supplies of certain off-patient medicines. So I think this is what you mean when you talk about it, right? That it's huge amounts.
It's a huge amount. This is the first, and the second is also the way how the stock is created. If we are talking about the contingency stock or the stockpile on national way, then we also have to first see, what are the capacities of the industry. If the industry is able to fulfill this requirement, first, we have to also, somehow understand, what will be need. So we have to work with the data, with epidemiological data. We have to ensure, that we are stocking, enough for the patient, but not overstocking. And the third, we have to also think, how, let's say, quick or fast is the pressure to create that stock. Because if it is, from day one, and I use the German example, because it's based on the law. At the moment, the marketing authorization holder wins the tender. From that moment, the validity of the tender, the stock should be created. And of course, if there is not enough time to have a smooth upload, then it will create a pressure, on all markets.
Mm-hmm. So, as you mentioned before, there was shortages of very basic drugs, starting from paracetamol to just random antibiotics. Just in the opening interview where we had Commissioner Stella Kyriakides, she said that a great deal changed already, basically not to repeat the situation in Europe. So there are initiatives to fight shortages such as voluntary mechanisms or the Critical Medicines Alliance created in April. So how do you see EU's action on addressing shortages? Do you see advantages on the ground already in your country?
I am the part of the Critical Medicine Alliance. I had this privilege to work, with my French co-chairs, to set up, the recommendations under the umbrella of DG HERA. So yes, of course, we see, during these discussions, we see, that there are solutions. There are the clever ways, to do it. So. And we will have a new commissioner. We have a new parliament. There's a definite number of occasions, which we can use it, to make our way of working with the supplies of pharmaceuticals, especially the basic ones, let's say in much clearer way than we are doing that now. So yes, there is a development. If you're talking about the solidarity mechanism, which you mentioned it, yes, we are talking about the solidarity. We are talking about the way, how we could share. But unfortunately, when you take all those stockpiling systems or contingency stock systems, around Europe, majority of them doesn't allow this sharing between the member states, because the ownership is not at the level of the governments or the level of decision makers. It's set by the regulations, and it's very difficult to then use this stock, for other country. So I believe that one of the key recommendations should be, that if we are doing the stock, if we are doing the stockpiling, we should always, have a mechanisms, how to use the stock not just for the one country, but be able to share it, between us. And then, of course, we will not need it, such a huge stockpilings in member states, but it could be coordinated on the EU level. And that's, I believe, is the way, how it should be done.
Mm-hmm. Is Czech Republic doing something on national level on stockpiling? And maybe you have some advice for the countries to share.
No, of course, we try to build a system, which will be flexible. But the first you have to see, and you have to be able to hear. Yeah. So first you need to get the data to exactly know, what you have, in your system. So I mean, we have a full electronic recipe, so we know every box, when it is dispensed. Now I can see, or we can see, the level of supplies on the level of the distributor, but also at the level of the pharmacy. So at the situation when there is, for example, interruption of supplies, we have a number of tools, to ensure that the rest of the stock is really distributed to all pharmacies, and it's not, let's say, in panic, supply somewhere. Yeah. So this is the first, that you have to have a really good overview of your system, and then also we have to manage, the recovery phase, because usually the recovery phase is quite long. Again, the distributors, but also the pharmacies, they tend to keep, or to order more stock, than is necessary. But if you have tools and mechanisms which allow them to really have it only that stock, which is necessary for the patient, your recovery phase could be quite short, and you can have the stock, around the country very quickly. And then, the final recommendation which is there is not to really stock it, on the warehouse, but to have it, after the discussion or after the regulation, on the level of the marketing authorization holder, because then it could be the foreign batch, it could be the unregistered product, it could be the number of solutions which could be provided by the company or the group of companies who have those problems with the supplies in a certain country. And then you have to also work with pricing. Because if your price is lower than the other countries, then you have to be able to very quickly, to ensure that the price and reimbursement doesn't really affect your patients. Again, it could be done. It's working. I have to say, it took us some time to develop the legislation which allowed us to do the steps. But if you are a small country, if you are the open market, you have to be very flexible to survive.
Thank you for sharing these thoughts about shortages. We will have a panel specifically on that later on today, so we will move now on pharmaceutical strategy. Oh. Not an easier topic, I suppose. So the pharmaceutical strategy, the new one, it aims to revamp 20-year-old rules that exist now. And the European Commission, in their proposal published about 1 year ago in April 2023, is aiming to strike the balance between access to medicines for patients and incentivizing the pharmaceutical industry to develop much-needed therapies. Just before we heard from Nathalie Moll that it shouldn't be about access or competitiveness, but it should be about access and competitiveness. However, I have to ask, so access or competitiveness?
I agree with Nathalie, it's both. The only question is, we don't have just one industry. We don't have just the innovative industry. We have also the generic industry. And we saw, quite a difficult times also with the supplies of basic generics or biosimilars. So, the system which we will set, for another maybe 15, 20 years needs to be balanced. That's definitely the first topic to mention it. And we have to find a way, how to have, let's say, the support, for innovative industry, but at the same time, if we are prolonging the protection, we are creating a difficult time, for generic industry, and especially, some companies, with low level, with low price products, they're moving out of Europe the same way, as the innovative industry. So we have a problem, not just, with innovation, but with basic pharmaceuticals. So our response should be, balanced, and we have to find a way how to ensure that both industries are surviving in Europe.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think that it's good that Commission try to address both issues in one strategy? Because there are voices that say, oh, it shouldn't be done in this way, it should be focused on one and then on the other. What's your take on that?
No, one influencing another one. Yeah? So, if we do some steps, towards the innovative industry, then of course, it has an influence on the generic. So we cannot really split, this topic, to two pieces of legislation. It makes sense, to work with both. And I think, with the innovative pharma, and I work, for innovative pharma for quite a time. It's more, about the environment we have it in Europe. If we are creating the environment which which is really, let's say, demanding, from the perspective of investment, from the regulations which they have to fulfill, we cannot just expect, that there will be the reinvestment, and the industry will grow. Same it is from the side of generic industry, and if we incentivize, the industry at the beginning. It doesn't really make sure, that it will also work at the end of the life cycle of the pharmaceuticals. And so if we start, from speeding up the way of the access to Europe and the chance to get to the market, we have to also, think twice, how it will influence our financial systems, our health insurance systems, And yes, it's nice to have it, I mean, the new pharmaceuticals early in the stage of the life cycle. But if we are not able to reimburse it and to have a, let's say, equal access, in majority of or in all member states, then something is wrong. Yeah, and I'm working, with the data, which comes, from the industry, from EFPIA. When you take the weight report and you see, how diverse is the situation with the access. That we have countries, having 150 products and country which has 5. I mean, from that group, which was considered. Then something really doesn't work.
So according to the State of Health in the EU country health profile from 2023, access to innovative pharmaceuticals is generally good in Czechia. This is what they say. The share of new pharmaceuticals registered by the European Medicines Agency in 2017, 2020, and accessible to Czech patients was 59%, and it was above the EU average. So it seems that Czech Republic is doing something good in ensuring access. However, some issues still remain.
Absolutely.
What Commission proposed was reducing the data protection baseline and then rewarding the companies who make that extra step and reach out to all the member states offering their drugs. What is your take on that? Do you think it's a good solution? I know you made some tweaks in your proposal.
Yeah. No, definitely we have to find a solution. Because even if you take the Czech Republic, and I think, if you take, for example, rare disease, we are number 7 or 8, in the Europe. So, I mean, from the first look, it sounds good. But when you go deep, in how the access is done, majority of those pharmaceuticals are paid based on the individual approval coming from the payer funds. It's come from our constitution, so we have to ensure, that the treatment is there for the patient. But at the same time, in majority of those pharmaceuticals, we doesn't have a chance to really negotiate with the marketing authorization holders. And it's not about the companies who are well established around Europe. It's usually the companies which are, let's say, the mid-size or smaller size, and usually they focus on the big markets like Germany, France, Spain, Italy. Of course, it's natural because it's easy and you can get very quickly to the number of patients. But then, for the smaller states and for smaller member states, it's much more difficult, to achieve the good price, to achieve, the good cost or risk sharing scheme, and this is somehow not really balanced. And what we see, the waves, of the launches are really, following, usually the size of the market. So we are not talking about the Europe, where we have equal access. Of course, the member states can state or say we are not able to reimburse, or the data are not good enough, for the reimbursement. But this chance needs to be given, to those authorities, and to the patients.
Mm-hmm. As we talked about access issue, I wonder also how important it is for you to support the industry through pharmaceutical package. Because I read also that Czechia has a well-developed pharmaceutical industry with several local manufacturers producing a wide range of drugs. So I wonder how important this is for you.
For us, of course. We have mainly the generic industry. There is only, I think, Novavax, who is now present, and Ferring from the original pharma, who is present in the country. So majority of the production is the generic companies. As other countries, we will be happy to have it more. But yes, we have to first, create the environment, which will be much more open, for the innovative pharma. And at the same time, my big question is, if the way of how we now incentivizing the industry really creates, enough tension to have the manufacturing located in the Europe, or the R&D in the Europe. Now, I mean, how the system is set is more about general incentives. We hope that there will be the results, there will be more innovation coming, but we are not able to target the innovation. We are not able to set up the unmet medical need where we need the focus. And at the same time, we are not able to ensure, that what we invest and what we pay, from our reimbursement systems, because this kind of incentives, RDP, market protection, is covered, from our health insurance systems, and we are not able to really say what is the results, of those incentives.
I have a final question to you, just because we're running out of time, unfortunately. As talks in the Council are continuing between countries, we as a public, we had a chance to look at what stance countries are taking back in Luxembourg when there was a final EBSCO under Belgian presidency. I wonder how far countries moved from their positions back then, and how, like, you know, what can we expect when we can expect that negotiations with Parliament might start?
It's a very difficult discussion, and yeah, we will be probably happy, you know, if we will be able to finish it, you know. I mean, this area of incentives during the Polish presidency. So at least, you know, another half a year. And there is a number of other things, you know. I mean, because we focus now on the incentives, but there is so many obsolete issues, you know, in pharmaceutical package, which we need to solve and which we need to change. I mean, the example could be also the regulation of advertisement, and how we allowing, you know, the communication of innovation to our patient. I mean, we are really, you know, in digital time where all the information around the globe is accessible, but at the same time we are saying, you know, that the patient can only get the information, you know, from the medical professional. From my perspective, doesn't make any sense. And we want to have a patient and patient organization the part of HTA. We want to include them in the decision-making